I had the worst bad acid trip, and the story is coming up next. Yeah, I had a bad acid trip. We do acid every so often, and so what happened was my mom was out of town again on business, and now she didn't trust my brother to take care of me anymore. I don't know if she knew really that it was him, even though I insisted that it was, or if she just didn't trust him anymore because I was saying it was him. But she had my biological dad come over to watch. He was in radio-controlled cars, and in fact, we all were, actually, me and some neighbor kids and stuff. So the plan was just to have a whole day of just racing the cars out front and, come inside. You got to, you race for a little bit, and then you got to repair it and charge the batteries, and then you can go back out again for a little bit, So my buddy comes over with some window pane, which is a type of acid, and it's called window pane because on the square, it's got a little cross on it that looks like a window pane, and you're not supposed to take a whole one. You're supposed to break it off into little sections of 4 and take it. And I'm like, oh, whatever. Just give me like 3 of the full window panes, which is like taking, 12 hits. So yeah, that was pretty strong stuff. I didn't realize it was that strong until after I took it. It was pretty strong, and I took a lot. And so at the time we were into drinking Stroh's beer because it's horrible beer, but it came in 30 packs. And so, for the same price as a case, you'd get 30. And so I got a case of the Stroh's, and I'm drinking that. And throughout the day, my other friend comes over who's working in his machine shop with his cousin. Hey, get us stoned. He was coming over every hour or two just so I could get him stoned. I had some really good Hawaiian at the time. And so, I shared it with him, no problem. And I'm smoking it myself. Now, when you smoke pot on acid, it intensifies the trip. So I'm like, that's cool. Makes it even, better. Usually. So, now, I was trying to figure this out. I was drinking beers and pounding them. And the thing is, when you're on acid, I don't know if you know how acid works, but basically it's rat poison. And the poison is trying to kill you, but there's also speed in there. So the speed is keeping you alive while the poison is trying to kill you. And during all this, you hallucinate and trip. That's what you get to trip, is your body dying while the speed is keeping you alive. And while this happens, your blood vessels and insides and even your colon, everything constricts. It all constricts. That's why your skin gets blotchy when you're on it. And so you can't poop when you're on acid. You can pee, but it feels like a rubber band. It's crazy. So I'm drinking this Stroh's, and now my buddy says, if you're tripping, you should watch this movie. I can't think of the name of the movie. Some Vietnam movie with the guy trips out on like the ceiling fan. He thinks it's a helicopter and keeps having flashbacks of the movie. So I put that movie on, and I'm sitting alone in this room I had in the basement. And my other buddies racing radio control cars with my dad, and I'm starting to have a bad trip. And so I'm like, this is not good. You're never supposed to trip on yourself. You can stare at the wall, look at tiles and watch them move and stuff. But you should never trip on yourself or look at yourself or trip on, that's a no-no. So I started doing that though, and I'm thinking, okay, I started out with 30 beers. I gave out about 4. And I got 2 beers left in there. That's like 24 beers I drank myself. I'm like, I see all the empties there. I drank all this beer myself, and I haven't peed once all day. And I'm like, my stomach starts feeling cold and bloated, and I can feel my stomach like, just like all the fluid in there. And I'm like, oh man, I'm driving myself crazy now. I started having this horrible, horrible bad trip for hours, because when you trip, it lasts, typically for me, it lasts about 16 hours. This was really, really strong, potent stuff. And I took so much of it. It lasted long, probably lasted like more like 18 or 19 hours or so. And I was freaking for about the second half of the whole trip. I was freaking out. I have never experienced a panic attack or any type of anxiety at all. I was a speed demon. I liked the speed. I would have went parachuting, no problem. I would have, did bungee jump, all that. I would have done anything. Not even think about it. No fear, no nothing. But this put like fear into me. I was freaking out. Well, I started coming down, and funny thing about Stroh's beer, if it ever gets warmed up and then chilled again, it sort of goes bad. I mean, it's not going to make you sick or you can still drink it, but you shit it out instead of pissing it out. It comes out like diarrhea, right? But all my stuff is constricted because of the acid at the time. So when I started coming down, I'm like, oh, I think I could maybe go to the bathroom now. I went and it all came out and I felt so much better and I wasn't bloated anymore and I was coming down from the trip and I'm like, oh my gosh, I never want to do that again. And you know what? I quit everything cold turkey. Even smoking cigarettes, I didn't want nothing. I even actually started drinking again a few years later, but I even quit drinking everything. Just cold turkey and never did a drug ever since. Well, I mean, I tried pot like once, twice since then, but it was many, many years with nothing at all. And, maybe that was a good thing. I was probably headed down a bad road, and this put the fear of God into me. Let me tell you, I just quit cold turkey, and I've been pretty much clean ever since. Well, needless to say, that was my last time doing acid, but I have done it plenty of times before that. And one time we were at a party, and a lot of my stories start out that way. I did a lot of partying when I was younger, but this is a party we were all going to trip, and so there was a lot of acid there, the sheets of acid going around, and I don't know why I always felt like compelled to take more acid than normal. Normally you would take one hit, maybe you'd even tear it in half, take half a hit, something like that, just to be reasonable. No, I wasn't reasonable at all. I just wanted to see how much I could take. So I took like 9 hits. So stupid. But actually, our friend Frank had me beat. He took like 40 hits, and all I remember from that night is he was passed out on the floor, and he woke up and puked up, and he was picking up the chunks of the sheets that were still like, I don't know, the hits, he was just picking it up and putting it back in his mouth. He was trying to re-eat it. He was just so out of it. And, but I took 9 hits that night, and, all I remember from that, besides what happened to Frank, was I went out on the porch and it was snowing. And I was catching a trail off of each snowflake. And it totally looked like spaghetti coming down from the sky. I thought I was like walking through spaghetti. It was hilarious. I suppose that's no real big story or whatever, but that was just kind of a funny, experience. I never got any of I saw flamingos or flying elephants. I think that people just make those stories up. I think, maybe some lines on the wall move a little bit or something, or, textures kind of wiggle around a little bit sometimes, but Nothing majorly like something's not there, just appeared there. That never happened to me, and I've taken a lot. So I think it's just people making up stories about that. One time we went to a concert, me and like 4 other buddies, and I drove, and it was in Wisconsin. I think it was at Poplar Creek or Alpine Valley, Poplar Creek, the one that's not there now anymore. And we were going to see Robert Plant, and we wanted to. The idea was to buy some acid while we were there. We had some pot and whatever else, So we ended up scoring. We bought a sheet of acid, like a whole sheet, and we were just gonna, bring it back with us. We're gonna take a little bit while we were there, and so we each took like a hit or two. That's it, nothing crazy. Until later that night, and it started raining during the concert, and we had this. It was like just folded up and put in a little like piece of plastic that we found. I don't know if it was a cigarette cellophane, or it wasn't like a Ziploc bag, like it would have been safe. It was going to get wet and get ruined. So we're like, hey, we got to eat it up now. So we just divided it up between us and ate it all. And oh man, that night turned out not so good. It was raining so hard on the way home that I couldn't see 5 feet in front of the car. And of course, I was catching trails from the raindrops. I don't know if it was that or just raining so hard that, I just couldn't see ahead of me. It was coming down bad. Like, even if I wasn't tripping, I wouldn't want to have been driving in that. So I like pulled over. I'm like, I can't do this. So the guys are like, we got to get back. We can't just not keep driving. So I let them drive the car. I couldn't do it. It was just like the one time I give up. I can't do it. But I can't believe we just had to like eat that whole sheet. Or else it was just going to go bad. What are you going to do? Well, guys, if you're still watching, you must have liked the video. And if you did, give it a like. Now, if you want to see more like this, subscribe and click the bell. If you got some extra time on your hands, why not watch another one? You can choose one from the Stories of My Life playlist, which will appear here after I disappear. Or you could watch the next one in the series, which will also appear here. See you in the next one.